Saturday at 7 on Channel 9.
This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting tonight from CBS News Convention Headquarters in New Orleans. Good evening. With more than 200,000 balloons stashed overhead and with a bright red carpet down below, the New Orleans Superdome stage is all set for the Republicans. George Bush will be the standard bearer, won't make his grand entrance until Tuesday, just as Ronald Reagan, who will get here tomorrow, is leaving. But most of the delegates began arriving today, and Bruce Morton has the latest.
The convention is almost officially underway. First music, first flags, first crowds, first speech.
We haven't even gavelled this convention to order, and I'm pleased to tell you, this is the best.
It may at any rate have the most stuff for sale. Buttons, of course, all sorts of buttons. The Ollie North video not selling terribly quickly. Shirts and hats. These things, half alligator, half elephant, maybe they're Louisiana Republicans. And this, the George Bush. Sales were not always brisk.
We've made $12.43 by actual count.
But with more delegates arriving, that's changing. And this afternoon, with music and balloons and fireworks, it really did seem to be starting. Along with balloons, the air was full of gossip. Who for vice president? Dole, the other Dole, Kemp, Simpson, DeConcini? Ask a button salesman.
As far as vice presidential, the hottest rumor I've heard is not Bob Quayle, but Quayle out of Indiana. That seems to be the hottest one going around right now.
He probably knows as much as anyone here. And if all that weren't enough, the convention had its first official protest today. So the entertainment part of this convention is underway. Delegates, parties, all that. Some people who were not in New Orleans, of course, took the day off. The serious planners start arriving tomorrow when President Reagan comes here. The serious business will really not start until Thursday night, when George Bush, alone at the podium, a presidential candidate in his own right at last, puts his case to the country. Bob?
Thank you, Bruce. Earlier this week, a man who served in the Navy with George Bush disputed Bush's account of how his plane was shot down during World War II on a bombing mission. Today, Bush got some support from, of all people, his Democratic presidential opponent.
This is a man who flew 58 missions, did so with great valor and great courage, and I think to question that record is unfortunate. I think it's very unfair.
Well, this is the day that Ronald Reagan normally makes his weekly radio address to the nation, but today the president brought up something he seldom talks about on Saturday. White House correspondent Terrence Smith now with more on that.
President Reagan has rarely, if ever, mentioned his vice president in his weekly radio address, but today he did, 9 times.
Since George Bush and I put our economic policies in place, we've witnessed the longest peacetime expansion in American history.
Following the joint appearance by the two men yesterday, it was striking evidence that President Reagan's top priority now is electing George Bush, even to the point of giving Bush a say in the nomination of Nicholas Brady as Treasury Secretary, Lauro Cavazos as Education Secretary, and Richard Thornburg as Attorney General.
The White House clearly is letting George Bush begin to run the government. The appointments are reflecting a future George Bush cabinet. It's a moderate to conservative cabinet that's coming. That's the real Bush government that's beginning to assemble here.
The president's newfound enthusiasm for his vice president's candidacy carries with it the danger that the legendary Reagan popularity will overshadow George Bush, just as Dwight Eisenhower tended to diminish Richard Nixon in 1960 and the mythic figure of Lyndon Johnson dwarfed Hubert Humphrey in 1968. The so-called stature gap or shadow factor may be all too evident when the president makes his farewell address to the Republican convention Monday night.
The applause meters are going to go right off the charts. And we all know that's coming, and it's going to put extra pressure on Bush for Thursday night for his own speech to be as effective as Reagan.
As effective as the president, but in his own style. White House officials stressed that while the president will campaign hard for the ticket, trying to mobilize his core supporters, the conservatives, the Christian right, blue-collar Democrats who voted Republican in '84. In the end, only George Bush can get himself elected. Terrence Smith, CBS News, the White House.
Wouldn't have guessed it back during the primaries, but George Bush will pick up support from another Republican this week who was once an out-and-out political enemy, Pat Robertson, the TV evangelist who will get a featured spot at this convention. Jerry Bowen checked in on him this week, and here's his report.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing?
Pat Robertson is back in the television studio these days, delivering his particular brand of news and religious views, but his political clout may be bigger than ever.
Suffice it to say that it's very fair to say that Pat Robertson and his supporters will be a crucial component of victory for George Bush.
The third of the evangelical bloc vote that we've identified in the United States as being Pat Robertson's vote will show up on Election Day if they are directed to do so by Pat Robertson.
If I could mobilize 2 or 3 million people, it can be the margin of victory.
Why aren't you using the list?
That would seem a big if, given the bitter rivalry between the Bush and Robertson forces in some states. Michigan, for example, where Robertson supporters bolted the regular convention in a rules fight. Robertson activists, at least, say that's history.
They're understanding that fight's over and they have to move on and get behind Bush.
There's a price for this love-in, of course. Robertson is being given nearly a half hour of prime time Tuesday night for a speech. The platform has been tailored to his conservative tastes, and should George Bush win, Robertson expects to see some of his people in high government posts. Some mainstream Republicans worry the deal could actually lose votes.
It's risky when you start getting involved with people who I like to refer to as extremists or zealots, whatever way you want to put it, because, well, I think it turns a lot of people off.
Does this mean Robertson has forever abandoned his own quest for the presidency? Not exactly. He has political action committees already raising money for the future.
My hope is that George Bush will be elected this fall, that he'll run again 4 years from now. So that would put any consideration for me down to 1996. However, if Michael Dukakis wins, then it's a different ballgame. But I don't want to speculate too much on that until after November.
For now, at least, Robertson is a Republican team player to the extent that he'll forego the honor of having his name placed in nomination at this convention, so the spotlight can focus totally on George Bush. Bob?
Thank you, Jerry. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, Lloyd Bentsen leads the Democrats' battle for Texas today, and later Susan Spencer looks at why George Bush is having trouble engendering the support of women.
Having fun with my daughter, Kim, wasn't always easy for me to do. It's not that I didn't want to. I did. But sometimes constipation would slow me down. I tried a harsh chemical laxative, but they can be irritating or work too suddenly. Well, I found something I could live with. Metamucil fiber therapy. Pure Metamucil fiber regulates you naturally, safely. After all, fiber's what helps keep you regular. But I just wasn't getting enough. With Metamucil every day, I get plenty. So I'm regular now, and I'll stay that way. Gives you a whole new perspective on life. More fun. Come on, Mom. Here goes nothing.
Metamucil, and you could stay regular for the rest of your life.
Ready? In a minute, honey.
It's nice to be noticed for what you wear and how you look. And if you wear dentures, it's nice to know Efferdent cleans away stains and freshens up dentures so well. With Efferdent, all they'll notice is you.
Michael Dukakis chose Senator Lloyd Bentsen as his running mate to help win the state of Texas, so it's not surprising Benson's been spending a lot of time campaigning there. Well, he was there again today, attacking the Republicans on the eve of their convention. Deborah Potter reports.
On his fourth campaign swing through Texas in 4 weeks, Bentsen sharpened his attack on the Republicans and their new party platform, saying it's full of broken promises and skewed priorities.
What they're talking about in that platform, I'll tell you, they're really not in touch with the working men and women of America.
Those are just the people, the so-called Reagan Democrats who've deserted the party in recent elections, that campaign strategists believe will be wooed back by Benson's conservative record.
For me, it made all the difference.
pick the right man.
The Democrats hope that appeal will extend to white middle-class voters across the South. But Republicans contend that Benson is only a threat in Texas.
I think the biggest asset that he is that he forces the Bush campaign to devote a lot of time and energy to a state where they wouldn't have had to before.
With Benson on the ticket, the Democrats also get a lot of free exposure in Texas, paid for by the campaign he's still running for the Senate.
The truth is, we're different in Texas, and so are some of our laws.
In television ads airing this weekend, Benson never mentions the national ticket, but the fact that he's on the ballot twice in Texas could help the Democrats in a must-win state.
It gives us a chance maybe to spend some more money on get out the vote, but on the other hand, it gives the Republicans something to talk about, so I think that's a wash.
In fact, for some voters, it's a real dilemma.
In which place is he in better role to serve the needs of the state of Texas, as chairman of the Senate Finance Committee as vice president? It's a very difficult choice.
The senator's advice?
Vote twice for Benson.
Benson plans to spend all of next week in Texas on the offensive while the Republicans meet in New Orleans. As one campaign aide put it, we know they're coming after us and we've got to protect our base. Deborah Potter, CBS News, Laredo, Texas.
Women will account for only 1 out of every 3 delegates here at the Republican convention next week. That reflects the problem the Republican Party, and George Bush in particular, is having attracting women. Well, we have more on that now from correspondent Susan Spencer.
The polls say many women don't care much for George Bush. Some women put it a lot more strongly than that.
I find him to be a very weak person. He doesn't come across as sincere.
I hate to use the word wimp, but he's too wimpy for me. In last week's CBS New York Times survey, Bush trailed Dukakis by 21 points among women, by 26 points among working women.
Even Republican women are voting in favor of Michael Dukakis at this time.
The campaign doesn't deny it.
George Bush needs to be before them more. They need to get to know him better, and when they will, our gender gap will close.
Ironically, Bush may be inheriting a problem created by Reagan-era prosperity. With the economy doing well, more women are in the workforce, but they're likely to be at the bottom of the ladder. Worry that the good times won't last may make this gender gap hard to close.
The part they will not be able to close if they continue on this prosperity and things are great litany is the part where women are saying it may be great for a lot of men, but it's not going well for me.
Women are less confident about the country's economic future, and they favor a slightly stronger role for government than do men.
And so they tend to favor Democrats. It's been that way all through the 80s. The Republicans' woes aggravated by Ronald Reagan's macho image. Bush supporters insist Bush can overcome those troubles just as Reagan did. But while Reagan did it by the sheer force of his personality, Bush is starting to work on the issues. The vice president's new proposal offering tax credits for child care was a direct appeal for the women's vote. The television pictures showed a different George Bush, a man concerned about a domestic problem, a far cry from earlier campaign images that may have turned women off.
It's a totally male biography, really aimed at male values. You know that he's got a war record, you know that he's with the CIA, and he doesn't speak very much to what women's values are.
With 10 million more women than men expected to vote in the fall, that may change.
He's exactly the kind of man you would trust in office. We've not projected that as well as we need to.
We did not get those out. Bush's immediate challenge is to project that here this coming Thursday night, knowing full well that ultimately the 88 election may hinge on how many women like what they hear. Bob?
Thank you, Susan. And in a moment, we'll be talking to Stu Spencer, no relation to Susan, who will be an advisor to George Bush's running mate, whoever that turns out to be.
And I don't want anyone driving my XT while I'm away. Do you understand?
The new Subaru XT6 has a powerful 6-cylinder engine, computerized full-time four-wheel drive, and a design which makes it hard to resist.
Somebody drove my car. Who was it?
La 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 bam ba da da ba.
Get up to $1,500 cash back or 4.9 financing on a Subaru.
Suddenly Salad proposes 3 exciting new leisure activities. Pasta primavera with broccoli, ranch and bacon, and Caesar with croutons.
Suddenly salad. Suddenly salad.
Live high.
For Post, natural brand flakes rue McClanahan on getting the best out of life.
Because last night I was so bad. I'm making sure I have a good morning.
Reach for the best tasting high fiber brand flake. Post, brand flakes at their best.
Why do you take aspirin more than once a week?
I spend my days at a computer, so I get my share of headaches. I want fast relief, sometimes several days a week. But when I take aspirin that often, I get concerned about aspirin's stomach upset.
Well, now there's a new and better aspirin product for you. Try Buffered Bufferin. Better than plain aspirin because it's 100% aspirin, plus 3 buffers to help protect against stomach upset aspirin can cause.
That really is better.
New Try Buffered Bufferin if you take aspirin more than once a week.
Here to talk with us now is a quintessential insider of Republican politics, Stu Spencer, the man who devised the strategy for Ronald Reagan's first campaign for governor, later the chief strategist for Gerald Ford's campaign, again a key advisor to Reagan in 1980. This year, he will be the key advisor to whomever Vice President Bush chooses as his running mate. So I suppose the first question, Mr. Spencer, I guess you know who it is. Who is it?
I don't know who it is. I don't think Vice President Bush has even made his decision yet.
Now, why is that? Why is it such a wide-open race for Vice President, as it were?
Well, this is going to be a very close presidential race, and whoever you pick as your vice presidential nominee could dictate some strategy, electoral strategy, and I think they're looking at it very, very thoroughly.
Some people say that the reason that the vice president hasn't made a choice yet is he really hasn't decided what he needs for a vice president yet. Is there anything to that?
Well, I can't answer that question directly because I don't know, but they've got some ideas, and they're testing and doing the things that they have to do in terms of survey research, and I just don't think they know yet. But when they do, it's going to be a indication to all of us, I think, what their basic strategies are going to be.
What kind of a campaign is this going to be?
No prisoners taken. I think it's going to be a very, very tough, hard campaign and a very close one in the end.
Why is that? The Republicans say they have a pretty good economy here, the country's at peace. Why shouldn't George Bush be an overwhelming favorite?
Well, you've got the situation where the Republicans have been in power for 8 years, and the electorate has this tendency of saying, let's keep some balance and let's put somebody out, let's put somebody in. They do it that between Congress and the presidential race all the time.
What do you think George Bush needs? And you obviously do give advice. I mean, what do you say to George Bush? Here's who you need, Mr. Vice President, or here's the kind of person you need, or here's what you need to concentrate on.
Well, I think what George Bush needs is not what George Bush needs. In my judgment, is what he's going to do, and I think what he's going to do is take the platform that was passed here yesterday at this convention, which is a platform that identifies the problems as Republicans see them and the solutions, put it beside the Democratic platform of 13 pages, which identifies the problems but doesn't have any solutions, and go to the country and discuss those things.
Are you surprised that the Democrats came out of their convention so unified, or at least they seem to be quite unified?
Well, I will grant you they were unified. The one real plus out of their convention was everybody took a half a loaf to beat the Republicans, and that is a plus for the Democrats.
Stu Spencer, thank you very much. In a moment, when we come back, some of the other news of the day, and there is some.
Around here, breakfast time is like the playoffs. My goal is getting him to eat right. His game plan's a little different. So I give him Wheaties. It's full of good nutrition, not sugar. He's sweet enough.
Wheaties, 100% whole wheat, naturally low in sugar. That's champion nutrition for the whole family.
Victory.
With low back pain, walking can be agony, where every step shoots pain. Up here, you know what helps? New back guard.
Clinically proven back guard is a shoe insert for low back pain aggravated by foot shock. Back guard with its shock trapper module relieves this low back pain. Watch how it helps absorb shock upon impact to reduce the shock to your back.
Amazing. Something down here can help up here.
New back guard from Dr. Scholl's. Absorb shock all day to help keep back pain away.
Calm was reported returning to Burma's capital of Rangoon today following yesterday's resignation of hardline ruler Sein Luen after less than 3 weeks in power. It was forced out by 5 days of anti-government protests that reportedly left more than 1,000 people dead. The IRA claimed responsibility today for gunning down a British soldier in Belgium. The soldier was shot to death in his car last night in the port of Ostend. He had planned to return to Britain on a ferry boat across the English Channel. In this country, more searing heat smothered the east today. Heavy rains fell in parts of the plains, but not nearly enough to break the drought. The drought has escalated a long-running dispute in Nevada. And James Hattori now with that.
Drought is part of the natural order in the desert of northern Nevada, but lack of rain has focused attention on the ongoing battle to control what little water exists. Indians fighting to bring their fishery back from the verge of extinction, farmers who've staked their livelihood on irrigation.
Well, if you didn't have the water, there'd be no farming. We have the water. Presently, we have the water, and everybody else is wanting our water.
Ted DeBraga's farm is abloom in the desert thanks to the 1902 Newlands Irrigation Project, the first government attempt to sell water rights and establish farms in arid western lands. Here in the mountains east of Reno, for more than 80 years, the government has diverted water from the Truckee River for irrigation. For nearly as many years, the Paiute Indians who live downriver have fought the diversion. The tribe says low water threatens a fish called the kiwi, the Paiute's ancient namesake, a fish now on the endangered species list.
If the kiwi go, that's a very intricate part of our way of life, and if it goes, a big portion of our culture and tradition goes with it.
The kiwi is unique to Pyramid Lake at the end of the Truckee River, but so much of the river has been diverted for farming. At one point, the lake dropped 80 feet, nearly killing off the kiwi. It took a lawsuit based on the Federal Endangered Species Act to secure enough water to restore the kiwi. The farmers are suing too. They say the government is wrong to take from them in order to give to the fish.
My opinion is that they tried to steal the water from the water users. They sold it to us, and the people have been paying for it in good faith and stuff. Now they're trying to come take it away.
One suggested way out of the dilemma is a federal buyout of water rights, giving the least productive land back to the desert. That would mean more water for the natural habitat, a victory for the waterfowl and the fish, a balancing of both nature and politics. James Hattori, CBS News, Fallon, Nevada.
Police in Hollywood, California made 4 arrests following a violent riot last night outside the Hollywood Palladium. A heavy metal rock concert was being held. Hundreds of young people who were not admitted to the apparently oversold concert clashed with as many as 75 policemen. More violence broke out when the concert ended. In Detroit, there was a memorial service today for the victims of Northwest Airlines Flight 255, which crashed on takeoff from the Detroit airport just a year ago this weekend. Of the 157 people on board, there was only one survivor, a young girl whose parents and brother were killed. Elmo Zumwalt III, who was exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam, died of cancer today at his home in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He was 42. At his bedside was his father, Admiral Elmo Zumwalt, who gave the orders to use the toxic defoliant. The younger Zumwalt always said his father did the right thing, and he never asked himself, why me?
I'm a great believer in fate. I believe that it's wasted energy to feel animosity or to try to look back.
Susan, can we talk?
Sure, Dad.
You notice anything different about Mom?
She's acting pretty wild for her age.
Well, I don't just mean the roller skates.
And the motor scooter. She even borrowed my new dress. Come on, Dad, what is it?
A balanced diet with the right vitamin nutrition helps people get more out of life. Some are finding Kellogg's Product 19. 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals. Feel good about yourself.
Not the, rubber dress.
Feel like 19 again.
If you want great tartar control and a great deal more, new Tartar Control Aquafresh will knock you over. It reduces ugly tartar buildup and more. It also helps remove plaque for healthier gums and more. It fights cavities with fluoride and more. It's got great taste no other toothpaste has. Great tartar control, great taste, and a great deal more. New Tartar Control Aquafresh.
Mom sure know how to make life easier. Mine was always there for me. Like another mom I know. This mom, Phillips Milk of Magnesia. M-O-M. The laxative that helps your body work naturally for easy overnight relief. Would Mom be harsh? No. And Mom's even easier to take with this dosage cup. See? Mom knows just what you need. So when you run into trouble, remember, nobody treats you better than Mom.
When Dan Rather talked with Vice President Bush this week, the talk turned, of course, to what has become topic A among Republicans here, who Bush wants as a running mate, and does he have to share all of Bush's views on the issues? Here's part of that conversation.
Will it be someone who shares your views on, for example, abortion?
Can't say that there's an individual litmus test of any single issue, but there will be an overall philosophical compatibility, because the vice president has got to be comfortable with the president. Otherwise, the vice presidency is rendered nil and goes back to the John Nance Garner days. And we don't want that. Jimmy Carter and Walter Mondale, to their credit, developed a new relationship between president and vice president. And the president and I have built on it. But some of it is because there is a certain compatibility.
Dan's with us tonight, and Dan, you're the only reporter who really has spoken at length with the vice president this week. Did you come away with the impression that he's settled on who he wants for vice president, or is he really still sorting this out in his mind?
No, I think he's still sorting it out. And I think in the end, he and Jim Baker, who just left Treasury to run his campaign, will make the decision. And in the end, it's George Bush's first presidential level decision. But I don't think he's made it.
Stu Spencer said just now this is going to be a campaign where no prisoners are taken. It's going to be tough on all sides. Did you get that kind of feeling talking to the vice president?
Absolutely. It's certainly going to be tough on their side. They believe that their negative campaign attacks on Michael Dukakis have driven the polls down already. They believe they have him on the run, and as one of them told me, one of the Vice President Bush's closest advisors, we're going to keep Michael Dukakis right up to here with attacks.
All right. Dan, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, John.
That's our report for tonight. Dan will be back with a special convention preview, including more of that exclusive interview with George and Barbara Bush tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And then tomorrow on Sunday morning, Charles Kuralt will give us a sample of some of the sights, sounds, and flavors of New Orleans. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News, reporting from New Orleans tonight. Good night.
For Post Natural Bran Flakes Rue McClanahan on getting the best out of life.
Because last night I was so bad. I'm making sure I have a good morning.
Reach for the best tasting high fiber Bran Flake. Post Bran Flakes at their best.
Priced an imported car lately? You could be in for import sticker shock. Or a pleasant surprise at your Buick dealer, Buick Century. It's actually priced under smaller imports like Toyota Camry Deluxe and Honda Accord DX. It's loaded with standard features, like room for 6, stereo, even a real trunk. That's more car for the money. That's the value of the Century.
The great American road belongs to Buick.
Now for indigestion, gas. Introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
Minnesota Vikings battle the Chicago Bears tomorrow on CBS Sports Sunday.
Ladies, let's talk oil. If you want